You understand how a vacuum cleaner works, which is a problem because you seem to think that outer space is a vacuum cleaner. Let's take a moment and clear this up. A vacuum is any region where there is no stuff. Here, there is stuff, like air. In space, there is no stuff, or at least very, very close to no stuff. Space is essentially empty. That's a vacuum.
Are you stupid or something?
I'm tired of be trolling, and it's gonna be a long video, man.
It hurt me to wake up and see my beautiful black people suffer, victimized by the oppressive, harsh realities of the hood. I guess even though we were free, we were still slaves in the mind. Message!
Flat Earth Dave. 10 things all flat earthers say. Whew, boy. This guy right here. Just go ahead and start the video.
The 10 things that all flat earthers say. If you're a regular person and you haven't seen my other 2 flat earth videos, you may want to check those out first for a little bit of context. But if you're a flat earther yourself, don't bother. I'll be speaking directly to you throughout this video. Let's begin. Number 1. One extremely problematic side effect of taking the globe and flattening it out into a plane is that gravity makes no sense, and there is no reason for things to fall to the ground. All objects accelerate towards the ground at 9.8 meters per second squared. That's an indisputable fact. And
I see already. It's gonna be one of those videos. If everything drops at 9.8 meters a second, it's blasphemous. Because feathers don't fall at 9.8 meters a second.
It is also an indisputable fact that any acceleration requires a force to produce it. This is how cars drive, planes fly, people walk, cats jump. It's how literally all motion works. Even charlatans like the globe busters accept at least this much, which is why they go off on their rants about magnetic magic, as you may have seen in my previous video. But quite comically, most flat earthers don't even do this. Most of you address this problem by simply listing 2 words: density and buoyancy.
Okay, here we go. I might have prejudged. I might have prejudged Professor Dave. Buoyancy and density. That's all it is to it. That's all there is to it. So, what you gotta say about that?
Well, I hate to break it to you guys, but these are not forces. Forces are vectors. They have a magnitude, which means a numerical amount, and a direction, which means they have to point somewhere. Density is simply mass per unit volume, or how much matter sits in a particular space. It doesn't point anywhere. And buoyancy is simply a measurement of an object's tendency to float. So allow me to repeat. These are not forces.
Just when I started to give you some credit, Professor Dave. Saying that buoyancy and density is not a force doesn't debunk or doesn't prove that gravity exists. But ironically, it is the 2 things that are measurable. Let me say this again. These are 2 things that can be scientifically measured other than a theory of gravity. But hey, you professor, what do I know? Continue, my bad.
0.8 meters per second squared. That's an indisputable fact. And it is also an indisputable fact that any acceleration requires a force to produce it. This is how cars drive, planes fly, people walk, cats jump. It's how literally all motion works. Even charlatans like the globe busters accept at least this much, which is why they go off on their rants about magnetic magic, as you may have seen in my previous video. But quite comically, most flat earthers don't even do this. Most of you address this problem by simply listing 2 words: density and buoyancy. Well, I hate to break it to you guys, but these are not forces. Forces are vectors. They have a magnitude, which means a numerical amount, and a direction, which means they have to point somewhere. Density is simply mass per unit volume, or how much matter sits in a particular space. It doesn't point anywhere. And buoyancy is simply a measurement of an object's tendency to float. So allow me to repeat, these are not forces. This is trivial to prove. You say that objects fall down because they are more dense than the air below them. Why down? Why not up? Or sideways? When you let go of a ball, there is air all around it. How does it know to fall down? Also, objects fall down when they are in a vacuum, which means there is no air below them. What's happening there? Face the facts. Things accelerate down towards the ground because of a downward force.
That was a lot of word salad. A lot of word salad. But it still didn't prove gravity. You basically just reinforced what I said. The only things that are measurable, which is what science is about, not theories, only thing that's measurable is density and buoyancy. You know what? Let's just go to the next thing, man. This guy.
Number 2, flat earthers all say, I shouldn't see this thing, but I do, so the earth is flat. Then to justify this claim, you all say the same thing, typically with no context whatsoever. 8 inches per mile squared. None of you have any idea what this means. You can't derive it. You can't calculate anything with it. You can't make a prediction with it. You can't tell me anything about this value at all.
Okay, here we go, Dave. Yeah, let's get to the good stuff now. 8 inches per mile squared. See, let me tell you something about flat earthers. We know the globe model more than you do. And for you to simply state that we don't know how the curvature formula works when your heliocentric scientists have come up with a formula called the curve calculator. Your people, the curve calculator. And according to the curve calculator, somebody 6 feet above the ground should be able to see more than 3 miles in any direction whatsoever. That in itself, you know what? I want to see how he's gonna get out of this one. This is gonna be good. What you got?
When I point this out to you, you get very angry, and instead of answering simple questions, you just link me to a bunch of videos made by con men. Well, I'm sorry, friends, those people are doing incorrect math, or lying, or both, and they are counting on the fact that you won't do any math at all to check up on them. 8 inches per mile squared is not a valid way to measure Earth's curvature. If you understood math, you would immediately see that this squared on miles is totally out of place. That's because this is a parabolic approximation. This is for doing calculations with a parabola. It's possible that you remember this shape from middle school algebra, but I wouldn't be surprised if you don't. As you can see, the Earth is not shaped like this. So where does it come from, and why do people use it? It comes from the Flat Earth Bible, Zetetic Astronomy, and Flat Earth priests use it because they know it's not accurate. It gives them incorrect values that they can use to claim that they shouldn't be able to see something when in fact they totally should. There are dozens of videos on YouTube demonstrating this, several of which reference the actual formula that actually describes Earth's curvature, which as you can see requires trigonometry. Stop blindly repeating what you hear on Flat Earth videos and learn some basic math so that you can do these calculations for yourself.
Damn, Dave. Professor Dave, you're making it so easy. Because all you did was just throw out another formula which you yourself have not provided any kind of experiment whatsoever that has been done. You still haven't explained why people see past that point. All you did was just take the formula in which, once again, it didn't come from the Flat Earth Bible. This is what NASA uses. NASA uses the... You know what? Let's go to the next one.
Number 3, all flat earthers say the same two things about water. The first is, water doesn't curve, and the second is, water finds its own level. The second phrase is completely meaningless, so the fact that you all say that exact thing verbatim is just one of the many demonstrations that you all blindly repeat what you hear without giving it a moment's thought.
Now see, this is where you have to break down everything that he just said. This is where people get things wrong. This is where misinformation comes from. So I'm going to tell you right now, Professor Dave, nobody says that. We say large bodies of water at rest always finds its level. Point blank period. Anything bigger than a gallon, even that. large bodies of water at rest always finds its level. You're strawmanning us because we don't just say water. That'd be idiotic. We know that. But we also know that large bodies of water do not curve. They just don't. They just don't curve. And you know that, Professor Dave. But see, I'm onto your wordplay because we don't say water doesn't curve. We say large bodies of water at rest doesn't curve and it always finds its level, and that's been proven time and time again.
As for the first phrase, stating that water doesn't curve is at least a coherent thought. However, it is dead wrong. Put a drop of water on a piece of wax paper or a leaf. What does it look like? A freaking sphere! Isn't that something? In your haste to mindlessly parrot what you heard from flat earth priests about water, you forgot to look at water. Water curves, my friends. Look at this curved meniscus. Look at these waves. Water curves all the time.
Wasn't water in a container in that first? Wasn't that a container the water was in? And ocean waves curve? But do they stay curved? Once again, Professor Dave, do not listen to his words. He's trying to tell y'all that large bodies of water curve. Yes, but do they stay curved? When they curve, can they just lay at rest and curve just stay there? No, they can't. You need a container. You need a container. Point blank period. You need a shoreline, you need a container. You cannot just...
Number 4. You are all quite perplexed about how Earth's atmosphere can exist next to the vacuum of space. This one is rather amusing because what's happening is that since you have no science education, your only context for the word vacuum is a vacuum cleaner. And again, because you have no science education, none of you understand how a vacuum cleaner works, which is a problem because you seem to think that outer space is a vacuum cleaner. Let's take a moment and clear this up. A vacuum is any region where there is no stuff. Here, there is stuff, like air. In space, there is no stuff, or at least very, very close to no stuff. Space is essentially empty. That's a vacuum.
First off, the vacuum thing. What? Did he just say that there's no stuff in space? Did this man just say that there is no stuff in space? So what are all the stars and the asteroids, the galaxies, the Milky Way, the fucking planets, the sun, the moon? What do you mean there's nothing? What do you mean there's no stuff in space? Where did this professor get the degree from? He just said there's no stuff in space.
Number 5. One of your favorite little gotcha challenges is to request that we demonstrate how water can stick to a ball spinning at 1,000 miles per hour. The implication is that water and everything else should fly off of it like a child getting thrown from a merry-go-round. Well, it's very cute that you get overwhelmed by numbers with 4 digits in them, but in actuality, the Earth spins once per day. One time in 24 hours. Get on a merry-go-round and have someone push you one time around over 24 hours. Not a very thrilling ride, is it?
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Oh boy. Okay. This is what, if the Earth spins at 1,000 miles per hour, according to y'all calculations, not mine's, yours. If the Earth spins that much, first of all, you can't, how you compare the Earth to a merry-go-round? See, this is what I'm talking about. Look, man, I understand. We all went to school. We all went to public school. We all had to research this stuff. We all had to regurgitate this stuff and learn it. So I understand y'all kind of mad, but we've been tricked. We've been tricked. What is this man talking about? What he's saying is making no sense. You can't compare. Listen to me. You can't compare that. If you put some water, matter of fact, put some water in the merry-go-round. How about that? Put some water in the merry-go-round. Damn, how slow you go to the merry-go-round, the water's gonna move dramatically, especially at 1,000 miles per hour. These big numbers are there for a reason. They give you these big ass numbers, so you just be like, nope, they know what they're talking about. They're scientists. No. Use your common sense, people. Just use your common sense.
The issue is that the Earth is really, really big. So if instead of using rotational velocity to describe a rotating body, like a normal person, you try to use linear tangential velocity, you're gonna get a pretty big number. But to be honest, it's still not really that big. Planes go more than half that speed, and sitting on a plane at cruising altitude with no turbulence is just like sitting on a chair on the ground.
Once again, you use an illogical comparison because when planes fly at 580 miles per hour, yes, we probably don't feel that relatively, but you're in an enclosed environment like the Earth, right? And let me just say it to you like this. You can't replicate that in a plane. If you want to replicate the Earth spinning in an airplane, this is what you need to do. Take the top off the airplane. First of all, because Earth is just, take the top off the airplane and nosedive 1 mile every 3 minutes to account for the curvature. And let me see how that works for you. Stop you comparing apple to oranges is stupid. It's stupid. It's common sense.
Flat Earth priests cite these big velocities associated with the Earth and the solar system purely for shock value, and you're falling for it. Stop doing that. Furthermore, this little water doesn't stick to a ball challenge is the strawiest straw man that was ever made of straw. The Earth is huge. It generates an enormous gravitational field. That's why everything sticks to it. A ball is very tiny. It does not generate an enormous gravitational field, so things don't stick to it. Also, unless you're doing this in space, the ball must be very close to the Earth, which, as we just said, generates an enormous gravitational field. So when water drips off the ball onto the ground, your desired demonstration of gravity fails because gravity exists. Stop asking for ridiculous and impossible demonstrations like having to build an Earth-sized object to show you how water sticks to something as big as the Earth.
Man, this guy right here, man. Jesus Christ. Look, man. Once again, the Earth's rotation has not ever been proven. Ever. Point blank period. It's never been proven. And for you to suggest that you make another illogical comparison of a tennis ball, it's laughable. We gotta stop appealing to authority. Just because this man got professor on front of his name don't mean he knows what he's talking about. It means he regurgitated a bunch of BS and I giving it to y'all and trying to make us look stupid. But really, if you think about it, the whole concept of globe Earth is stupid. Let's keep going.
Number 6. Lots of you say that moonlight is cold. This is astonishing for a number of reasons. The first is that it is not related to any claim you could possibly be making in order to argue for a flat Earth. But the second and much more important detail is that it is the perfect demonstration of the fact that you have no clue how science works. Some flat Earth priest measured the temperature under the moonlight and then again under something providing shade. Wow, moonlight makes it colder. But does it? Shouldn't you add some element of control to your experiment?
Now, this is the one thing I'm gonna have to actually concede to you on that one, Professor Dave, because that experiment can be manipulated to make it look like the moon. You know, I know that experiment can be manipulated to make the moonlight. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna beat you up too bad for that one because I don't even know if I agree with that one. It's not a good proof of flat Earth. So you got one. You got one so far that I'll be like, okay, cool.
Number 8. Many flat earthers remain dumbfounded by the idea that the Earth is slightly closer to the sun in winter than in summer. As I've said before, winter up north is summer down south and vice versa, so your confusion is one of northern hemisphere narcissism, but it is also one of complete ignorance. Here's the Earth. Here's the light coming from the sun. Look at this portion, it hits the Earth straight on. Look at this portion, because of the curvature of the Earth, the light hits the surface at an angle and is therefore distributed around a greater area. Same amount of heat distributed around a larger area, lower average temperature.
More word salad deflection, but let me just simplify it for y'all real quick. If the Earth was a globe and it was rotating, the exact same condition that exists in the North Pole will exist in the South Pole, and we know that's not true. We know it's not true. common sense. Don't think about it too hard. All these big words and this and that and the third. Nuh-uh. Use your common sense. If that was the case, there'll be equal weather. And also, it'll be freezing in the morning time before the sun even comes out. That's been.
And to wrap things up, number 10, the pièce de résistance, the claim that we have all been indoctrinated, that we have been brainwashed by schools, by the government, by NASA, by Freemasons, by Hollywood. Take your pick. Well, as I have demonstrated in this clip, you all say the same exact ridiculous things word for word, like you're reciting the oath of the Flat Earth fraternity. So it's a rather silly accusation to be throwing around. The fact that you all say the same things is not surprising in the slightest. What do you do when you want to brainwash someone? You tell them they have already been brainwashed. That's what Flat Earth priests do. They tell you that you've been brainwashed so that you are nice and receptive to the brainwashing. They tell you that everything you know is a lie so that they can lie to you. It's human psychology 101. Why do they do this? Money, status. It's a way for con men to capitalize on the gullible few who exhibit a combination of ignorance and suggestibility.
I'm going to stop right there because there is, in relative to globe Earth, there's no money in Flat Earth. Flat Earthers are being ostracized, excommunicated, made fun of, taunted, teased, belittled, chastised, because we think for ourselves. But NASA makes $50 million a day. So where's the money really at? Professor Dave, you probably get paid from NASA, man. Look, you all have been indoctrinated. Just because somebody told us something and we believed it. We were all victims of indoctrination. So there's no excuse for not. Look, there's no excuse. There's absolutely no excuse for us to just not able to look at what we taught and question things, man. There's nothing wrong with questioning science. That's all I got to say. I'm out.
It hurt me to wake up and see my beautiful black people suffer, victimized by the oppressive, harsh realities of the hood. I guess even though we were free, we were still slaves in the mind.